Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a revolutionary show for you. We're going to be talking about how God redeems what Satan destroys.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everybody, today we are talking about how God redeems what Satan destroys. And you know what? Sometimes I get really pissed at what Satan destroys.
Seriously. He causes more anger than anyone else in my life, I can imagine.
Because it's like damage, and it's constant attack and damage and trying to ruin things and mess things up, and it just shows up all the time. Oh yeah, we might be in a battleground. Doing this kind of show and talking about stuff he really prefers people shut up about and not talk about.
Sure, Satan would love to have us not say anything. And actually that's one of the things that one of the lies that he told me, sit down and shut up. When God first started asking me to speak, he just said that one word, speak, speak, speak to me. And that helped me, because when Satan finally started really loudly shouting, sit down and shut up, I knew it was his voice. I knew it had to be a lie, because God had already affirmed that he wanted me to stand up and speak.
Right, so I graduated from high school thinking I couldn't write because Satan was trying to go after my writing voice, even though I'd gone to college and gotten college credit for creative writing at 15 on a scholarship. By the time I was 18 and graduated high school, I thought I couldn't write.
How does that work?
Satan just chips away at and accuses and breaks down. So you can't write. You have no talent like somebody that has a singing voice, except they don't, and they think they do, and they want to sing all the time, except you're like, could you please not?
Right.
I thought my writing voice was like that, and that I was delusional to think that I had the ability to write.
Right. Because Satan doesn't go after something that's just kind of mediocre. He goes straight for our talents. He goes for what he knows is going to be effective for God's kingdom. That's his strategy, is to take out that which could be the most effective.
Right, so then I got told I couldn't speak. You talk too much, you say the wrong things, you talk too loud, you talk too often, you talk all this stuff, to where I felt like anytime I opened my mouth, it was a bad thing.
Right.
And the comedy of it was when I finally took a talent test that broke down all of everything that you were good at, my number one thing at the top of the list was verbal and written communication. So he was going after. Satan was just going after what God had given me as a gift that he meant to use, like he is now through this show and the Bloom in the Dark book and whatever. He went after that to destroy it before I ever got out the gate, before I ever had a chance to even start doing this stuff. He went after it. And he sees
the effectiveness of it. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. He's been going after us and doing war strategy and all that for a long time. And so we're the ones who, being born into it, new and innocent and not as savvy as the serpent, we get that handicap, if you will, to have to kind of catch up to what it is and have to understand, oh, okay, this isn't from God, and yes, this is a battlefield of the mind going on, and I need to, and it's not even of the mind. I say it's of the mind because that's where a lot of it is done, but he comes to literally steal, literally kill. And literally destroy. That, like it says in John 10:10, the thief does not come except to kill, steal, and destroy. That's the only reason he's walking around. That's the only reason he wants to get into our business.
You mean you can look at your life and look at the places where something has been lost or destroyed or has died, or somebody, and see his hand causing harm and trying to do damage. Like my innocence was stolen as a small child. That was stolen. That was him stealing, him doing damage. And the temptation that he throws at us is to blame God. When the fact of the matter is, Satan is orchestrating evil every way he possibly can. In fact,
the only thing he knows how to do
is
is destroy, and the father of lies, and all of that. So we can, and the Lord says that we can recognize by the fruit. We can recognize what is good and what is evil by the fruit that it produces. So what is that? What is that fruit that we can be looking for?
Right.
Then?
So if there's death, then the kill part might be playing a role.
That might be it.
If something's stolen or lost, that might be the steal part of that equation. If relationships are destroyed, that might have something to do with the destruction.
Destroy part?
Oh. Some of it is so simple and straightforward, but so many times in the moment, in the situation, we get so wrapped up in the emotions of it that we don't realize, hey, this is a clear-cut battlefront. In fact, in Ephesians 6:12, it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world. I can't even, keep the scripture straight, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. This battle that we're playing out here on earth is just the symptoms of the battlefront where Satan is coming after God's children, his creation, to cause destruction. And we look at our lives and we can see all these landmarks where he has done harm and destroyed and stolen and killed, whether it's the 2 babies that I lost. And that's death. That's not life.
Right.
And God gives life. So that's a symptom. Wait a second, that was something that got taken away.
Right. Which is very serious. But then, of course, there's those things that we don't, on the other side, we don't necessarily put Satan's label on it or his face on it, because it's harder when I'm trying to have a relationship with a friend of mine and they're choosing things that I don't agree with. And so there's this tension between us. What do we do with that? Well, I could be angry at them for making decisions that maybe hurt me, or I could say, oh, the enemy has a hand in this situation, and the enemy wants to cause division and tear us apart. But so often our first instinct is to blame the person and shift our energy and our hatred at the person, and not so much at the real enemy that is behind it.
Well, if he can keep it there and destroy the relationships, instead of us looking to obey God, which says to forgive, says to love your enemies and bless them that curse you, and do good to them that despitefully use you, and whatever. Of course, we're not talking about allowing ongoing abuse, but we're still talking about in our own hearts the forgiving and the letting go and the blessing and the praying for and the doing good spiritually in outreach. That so takes away from the destruction that Satan is causing. And that's the thing, when we recognize that fruit that Satan is throwing at us. I mean, the loss. Where have you seen loss in your life where he's stolen?
Come on, there's no loss. No. I'm human, I'm living, I'm alive, I've experienced loss, obviously.
Anyone ever stolen from you?
Yeah, I had a break-in, actually, when I was living up in Rhode Island for an internship, and it was, brand new area of the country. I'm just out of college, eager and excited. What is this new chapter of my life going to bring? And, my parents dropped me off, and brand new apartment building, and they left, and as I'm the first one in the building, of course, out of 10 people who are going to be there, and I'm the very first one to arrive. And that evening, I'm looking out my window on the phone with someone, telling them about my new neighborhood, and I see a drug deal right in front of the building. Oh. And I was like, oh, that was my first clue that maybe this wasn't the best neighborhood. Well, by the time the last person had moved in, the very next day, we had a break-in. And there was, we were in the middle of work. We got a phone call that there had been a break-in, and we had to go and go to the house and see what had been stolen. And that was the first time that I really understood the stealing part and the violation of what that feels like.
Yeah,
because
your space
traumatic.
Wasn't let me use my mouth here. Speaking, your space wasn't safe.
Right.
Anymore, because you knew people could break in and do harm, and that takes that sense of safety.
Right. Now God came into that and used that, because there was a break-in so early. The theater company that I was there for was amazing, and they put us up in a hotel until they could find new housing for us. They knew that was
safer
in a safer environment. They recognized this was a problem, that they didn't want us to have to be in a place that was unsafe. And it wasn't just, until we fix the doors. It was, we're finding a new location for you. So that was
God brought good into
really
it
cool
then.
to me, because for me, where I was feeling worthless, underneath everything at that point, I was surprised that they would do that for us, that they would spend that money to keep us housed that way because they valued us so highly. And that was a shock to me. I don't know if that's a shock to anyone else, but to me it was like, really? You're gonna, okay, I'll take it. So it was a blessing in the end.
Yeah, and then the killing part, like I said, with losing babies, that was definitely death and not life. But there's also suicide is a way that he kills.
Oh, yeah.
There's illnesses, the way stress and fear comes in and causes illness.
80% of illness supposedly is supposed to, by doctors have said that that's what causes most illnesses.
Yeah, psychosomatic, it's the mind, stress, emotions, fear,
or the cortisol
whatever.
flowing through you that is damaging your system.
Right, and then you have all these diseases out of it, and then your health is messed up, and then you can't work right, and then you're having to fight through just for basic functioning when you have all these diseases coming after you, and as stress levels and fear levels go up, the damage, the health issues, everything goes.
Your peace of mind. I mean, he just steals your peace of mind in the middle of all that, and that's where it starts and can just spiral out of control.
And then that destruction we're talking about with the division in relationships, he escalates that to division in churches.
Oh, yeah.
To dividing people from people in churches. Oh, well, I can't go to church anymore because someone in church hurt me. The crazy thing is Satan is going to go after those relationships in churches because he doesn't want us in God's house. He doesn't want us. And where you and I both talk about how religion is nothing, but a relationship with God is. And gathering together with God's people and worshiping together is so powerful. And Satan just thinks, if I can cause some kind of destruction or damage with someone in the church or someone in leadership or have somebody fall off their pedestal, then I can destroy so many people's belief in God within that structure.
There's a reason for that saying, divide and conquer. Yeah.
For real.
Absolutely.
So I want to introduce my friend.
Please do.
Crazy story. Met her in elementary school, and we kind of lost touch with each other going into high school because her family moved away from where we were. But in God's redemption, he has reconnected us because we both have a heart for the hurting people. We've both walked really tough journeys and found redemption in Christ. And I'm just so excited that I got to see her for the first time in like 30 years today.
That's
today, because that's how you should meet up again and have a reunion on a television show.
Why not?
But her name is Trisha Lynn, and I'm so excited you're here. Come on up, girl.
Trisha, come into the kitchen.
And can you give her a hand, Jenny?
Yes, I can.
Oh my
Trisha,
gosh.
this hand's for you.
Okay, here you go. You're going to keep it? I'm going to keep it. I'm keeping
Okay,
it
fine.
today.
You know what?
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. I offered it. I guess I should be.
Good. Okay, here. Now we'll put that back on there. Here we go. Here,
Glad I could lend
we
a
don't want to
hand.
scare anybody today, right?
No.
So I'm excited to be here. So excited to be here.
It was like yesterday.
So-
we saw each other, like,
Yes.
and here we are 30, I'm like.
30 years later.
Except yesterday was 30 years ago.
A little more gray hairs, a lot more wrinkles. But yeah.
Hey, I cover up all my white hair.
Well, mine's not, so.
Y'all are
We won't
beautiful.
point it out that bad.
So
yes, I'm
Trisha,
excited.
you have had a story where Satan has come in and tried to steal, kill, and destroy, like we've been
all of it.
talking about. Would you
All
share
of
with
it,
us a little
all
bit
of it.
about
Oh,
what
wow.
that's been like?
I don't know if I need to go back all 30 years or not, but
Hey.
he did. He definitely tried to destroy me, and there was a point where I'll just jump to the main point. I decided that I was going to share my story about forgiving my son's murderer. And from the point that I decided that I was going to tell that story, Satan jumped in full force to destroy me. And that was 10 years ago that I decided to share that story. And God actually confirmed that I was supposed to tell that story by answering a prayer of mine that I would get to see my son, and he came to me in a dream.
And what happened with your son?
Well, I'll get to that. Let me. I don't want to kill the whole show up front. But yes, so within 3 weeks of him coming to see me, my husband passed away. And so in the dream, God had shown me my husband and my son playing ball together.
Wow.
So that was my comfort, was that I knew that God had taken my husband home, but they were together. My husband and my son. And so the years went by and I had to mourn my husband. And God kept laying that on me, that you have to share your story. You have to share your story of forgiveness. That people need to hear it. So it was probably last year I decided that it was time for me to write my story. And Satan has come at me with my health. I had just recently decided to move on. I had gotten married, and within a month of being married, it turned violently south. And that was something that I had to deal with. My children and I sort of kept it to ourselves, but it got pretty bad, and people didn't realize that. So at that point, I knew that was Satan trying to attack me. And so I chose to forgive. And that is my story, is that forgiveness does more healing than any prescription, any medication out there.
Oh,
you know,
amen.
it's not antidepressants.
Yeah.
It's not antidepressants. It's not going to see a psychiatrist. It's forgiveness. If you can ever get to that point where you can forgive whatever has happened to you, true healing does take place. And that's when people will see the peace in your life. And that's what people ask me most often is, how do you laugh? You know, we've heard part of your story, but you're laughing all the time instead of crying when most people will be crying. And I said, I choose to forgive. I know that that's Satan trying to destroy me through them. So I choose to let that go. And I fight Satan. I don't fight them. I pray against Satan because I know he's trying to destroy them. But
that's amazing that you have that. You can keep that perspective even in the midst of.
He tries. He tries to come in. Even me sitting there before I came on stage, all these thoughts were coming through my mind. You know, that I didn't need to be up here. I didn't need to be telling my story. But I know. I know that my story is to be told. And I know that it'll help heal a lot of people.
So you're forgiving yourself for.
Yes.
You got to finish your son's story.
Yes, my son's story. It was 20 years ago, and I wasn't supposed to be able to have any more children. And I ended up pregnant. My husband and I, actually was not my husband at the time, but we decided that it was best to terminate the pregnancy. I almost walked out the back door secretly, but did not walk out the back door. And after that day, that next year, next 9 months, up till the due date, I really struggled with the guilt of what I had done. And I would wake up in the middle of the night hearing a baby cry, only to get up and find there was no baby there. And I remember laying in the bed at night begging God to kill me, begging God, just take me, I don't care, send me to hell, whatever you have to do to me, I just need to see my child. Here I go. So anyway,
okay, we cry on
anyway,
here.
We do. We have tissues if you need
so I wasn't supposed to have any more children, and it was 1999. I started having a lot of strange symptoms. Went to the doctor, started running tests. They assumed and still think I may possibly have MS. I told them it was something different. Well, long story short, they ended up finding out that I was pregnant again. And with a son with the same due date as the child that I had previously aborted.
Wow.
So immediately, same due date, couple days off, but December due date. And so I immediately, my knees almost buckled because I knew that God had heard my prayer and had given me that second chance.
Yes.
So
we have seen God is very specific with His dates.
Yes,
and He likes to redeem.
So that's why this is imperative this year because it's a 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
And so as my son, came, of course, in December, Trey, and we thought that, my husband and I, we would often question ourselves, I wonder if this is the same kid, I wonder, because my son would often ask us, when can I go back home? And we would say, "Bud, you're home. I don't know why you're asking that question." And he says, "But when can I go back to heaven?" Yeah.
Wow.
And he would ask us questions. Are you going to know me when I go, are you going to remember me whenever I go to heaven and you come up there? So my husband and I, we would often tear up. But it wasn't until 3 weeks before my husband died that we realized that Trey was not the same child. And when he gave me the dream, and in the dream, we were at getting ready to go to a family reunion. And so I get my husband there, and we're greeted by his mother and another gentleman. She was in a wheelchair. She had just passed away a year and a half before. And she was crying. I asked why she was crying, and the gentleman said, because she thinks that y'all have forgotten about her. And I looked at him, I bent down, I kissed her on the cheek, gave her a hug, and said, "Mom, I have Roy here." "No, we haven't forgotten about you." So Roy takes off up the hill to meet everybody. I'm lagging behind with Mom and the gentleman that's pushing her in the wheelchair. And as we get up the hill, the gentleman looks at me and says, "The boy walking up the hill on the other side is your son." And I lost it. I said, "No way." Because at that point I thought Trey had been my second chance, had been the same child. I just thought God gave him back to me. And I said, "There's no way. That's my son. There's no way." So as I'm watching him walk up the hill, I told the gentleman, I said, "The only way I'll ever know that that's my son is if I see him playing ball with his dad." And his dad was way up ahead of me. He was on the other side of the hill. He couldn't hear us. And he dropped what he was carrying, picked up a ball, and threw it to Roy. And Roy started playing ball with him. So I knew right then and there. I said, I took off running. I was wanting to get out of there. I didn't want him to see me. And that was the shame and the guilt. And
But
the
God.
boy ran up to me, grabbed my hand. And when I turned around and looked at him, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was my son. He had eyes, my eyes, but they were glowing. I mean, it was just like you could see right through them. And he had Roy's receding hairline. I'm like, "Man, did you have to get that receding hairline?" God, you couldn't have filled that in just a little bit, but he's good looking. But he was about 10 years old.
Wow.
And then when I woke up immediately and I'm in my bed, I'm holding my husband's hand, and my son's face is still there. He's holding my right hand, and I'm holding my husband's left hand.
Wow.
I see everything in the room. I'm bawling, and I'm just begging him not to leave. "Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave." And he just slowly started fading away.
Yeah.
And I promised him that day, I will tell your story. I will tell those out there that are hurting, you are forgiven. Our children do live. That just because Satan tells us that just because they have a heartbeat but they don't have a face, that they don't live, they do live.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And
do.
we will see them one day.
Praise God.
We will see them one day. And you have to forgive yourself. You have to, because I would have thought it would have been easier to have forgiven a complete stranger had they just murdered my child. But to see your face every single day and know that you're the one that did it.
But Jesus died on the cross for your forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
He died on the cross for my forgiveness.
He did.
He died on the cross for all of ours, whether it is the stranger killing your son or
That's
if
right.
it's you making that choice. His forgiveness is the same.
It is.
And that's so powerful when Satan does the steal, kill, and destroy, whether it's your health and all the ways he's attacked that, or your innocence as a child, or your marriage, or taking life or doing destruction. At the end of it, it is still about the fact that God comes in and redeems. You have a voice.
He does.
You have the ability to shine that life and hope and healing.
And my thing would be, my cry right now is that the churches actually love people again. We go to church, we sit next to people, we're ready to judge them, but we don't take our own mask off.
And
we
be
don't
real.
take our and be
Right.
real and say, "You know what? You may not be
Yeah.
where you're going to be in 20 years, but I've been there and I love you. God forgives you. I've been there." There's so many people, and that goes with Beyond Our Smiles and Let Your Heart Beat Again, that are hurting, but yet they're smiling on the outside, and you have no idea what they're dealing with.
You're sitting next
And
to him at
I'm-
church.
Yes, and and the churches, they don't open their arms anymore. They don't say, tell us the road you've been down so that we can help you. God forgives you, and we do too. And it's just,
But we are the
I
church.
don't know.
So
We're
get
supposed to love.
But we get to do it here.
That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
This is our church.
And
This is
that
our church right now, is
we
our
are
little
the church.
kitchen.
And I will tell you, I knew my story had to go out last week when there was a young man that was accused of murdering his 2-week-old child in my town. And I saw that man leaving the hospital with the baby when it was the same week my granddaughter was born, and I was at the same hospital.
Wow.
And my heart broke for the baby, but my heart equally broke for that dad, because I know the guilt that he's going to face. And to see the posts that Christian people that I knew posting hate comments on Facebook about him, that there's a special place in hell for him, we should hang him on the square. No, my face needs to be next to his, because I am no better off than he is. And if we take our mask off and we realize that we're not, then we'll be able to love people genuinely, the way God tells us to love people.
And accept that forgiveness for ourselves and show that forgiveness, demonstrate it to other people.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that brings life, that brings healing, that brings restoration. And when you smile and your eyes light up, what I see isn't the brokenness and the damage and the devastation.
No,
what I
there's
see
none there.
is life and beauty and just so clear.
Oh, yes.
And that's why we're doing this.
So do you feel like that dream that you had was what was finally able to release you and accept the forgiveness? Did that take
It still
longer?
took time.
Yeah.
It still took time, because even today, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful, because if I was just to say, oh, I'm forgiven and I can move on, yes, I am forgiven, but God leaves that memory there to show me and to remind me of his forgiveness to me. Not only his, but my child forgave me. He smiled and he never said a word, but his face said it all. And so that's there for a reminder.
Awesome. And that is why
Yes.
you are our ex-victim
Ex-victim.
of the week, Tricia.
Yay. Awesome.
We're so proud of you. Thank you for sharing.
So that when you drink your coffee at home, you can
Yes.
actually remember the fact
The bloom.
that there's other ones of us wanting to show that same transparency in life and healing
Oh, yes.
and redemption and highlight the truth
Just love people. Love, and forgive.
and share God's redemption through all the hard stuff.
That's right. That is right.
So
Thank
there's
you.
tissues in there,
Thank you.
so
Yes,
you're
so I'm gonna
processing
need it
through,
right now.
and there's chocolates
Thank
because
you.
we're women and we
Yeah.
all need chocolate.
All the time.
As we're dealing
All
with the
the
emotional
time.
roller coaster
Yeah.
that goes with these journeys of brokenness and healing, as we're working to actually process using the fertilizer
Of our past.
Oh,
bloom.
yes, to
bloom.
bloom.
today. So we got to bloom
Awesome.
today.
Yes.
A free PDF copy of the Bloom in the Dark book and a full list of Bloom Today's coaching tools can be found on bloomtodaytv.com. Then visit Bloom Today's Facebook group for deeper conversation.
Alpha, Omega.